Now we'll work through symbolising 9 to 16. So number 9 says, if you're in the throne room, you're in the castle. So this is some more sort of informal language, but the you symbol means that we're talking about any person. So if someone is in the throne room, someone is in the castle. And we can note that we're talking about the same person here, and that's sort of linguistic information that we have to pick up from the sentence. So if someone is in the throne room, that someone is in the castle. So we're going to need a quantifier here, and this applies to everyone. So it's the case for any x that if x is in the throne room, if x is in the throne room, then x is in the castle. So how would I do this with an existential instead? Well, I could say it's not the case that there's anyone who's in the throne room and isn't in the castle. And there are other equivalent ways of writing the same thing. So I'm not going to continue doing the both duals, both the for all and the there exists for every question, but there's whenever you write something with one of the quantifiers, there's always a way to write it with the other quantifier. So number 10, no one outside the castle is safe. So we want to write for all x, no one outside the castle is safe. So if someone's outside the castle, they're not safe. So I'm going to write that as if someone is not inside the castle. For all x, if x isn't in the castle, then x is not safe. All right. Number 11, if the king's not safe, no one is. So we've got another if then here. If the king's not safe, so not safe is the king, then no one is safe. So how do I write no one is safe? Well, I can write for all x, x isn't safe. And an alternate way of saying this is there does not exist anyone, does not exist any x who is safe. Number 12, unless you're in the castle, you can't be in the throne room. So here's got an unless, and we have to think about the scope of the variable that we want to use. So we can see that there's a u in both parts. And is it talking about the same u? It says, unless you're in the castle, you can't be in the throne room. Well, you could be in the throne room if someone else wasn't in the castle. You just can't be in the throne room if you yourself are not in the castle. So we're definitely talking about the same person here. So that's why I'm going to use my my quantifier is going to go over both of the it's going to go over both parts of the unless. So for all x, unless x is in the castle, and I'll use my or for unless, then x, unless x is in the castle, x can't be in the throne room. Not in the throne room is x. So this x that I'm talking about here applies to both of the disjuncts. Number 13, if no one is in the throne room, then the king isn't either. So if no one is in the throne room, so we've got a conditional. If no one is in the throne room, so I could write that as there does not exist anyone who's in the throne room. There does not exist any x for which being in the throne room is true. So if no one is in the throne room, then the king isn't either. And so we have to sort of translate what this really means. By isn't either, we mean the king isn't in the throne room either. So it's not the case that the king is in, not the case that the king is in the throne room. And how could we write this first part using a for all instead, a universal quantifier? Well, we were trying to express no one is in the throne room. So another way to write that would be for all X, they're not in the throne room. Everyone is not in the throne room. All right, number 14. If everyone's in the castle, then someone is in the throne room. And I put the then in myself because I can interpret that it's a conditional. Number 14. If everyone's in the castle, then someone's in the throne room. And now, are we talking about the same person here with the everyone and the someone? No, we're talking about, we're not talking about the same groups of people here. So we're going to use two sort of separate quantifiers. So the first part was if everyone's in the castle, for all X, X is in the castle. Everyone's in the castle, then someone is in the throne room. So that sort of means there exists someone who's in the throne room. For some X, X is in the throne room. So for some X, X is in the throne room. Number 15. If the Duke is in the throne room, nobody in the castle is safe. All right. So we've got another conditional. If the Duke is in the throne room, the Duke is in the throne room, then nobody in the castle is safe. Then nobody in the castle is safe. So I might write this as, there does not exist anyone who's in the castle and who is safe. Castle does not exist any X, castle X and safe X. And what's another way that I could write? What's another way that I could write the second part using a universal quantifier instead? Well, I could write, I'm trying to express nobody in the castle is safe. I could write for all X, if they're in the castle, if X is in the castle, then they're not safe. So you can see there's always a way to write it with an existential or a universal. And number 16 says, nobody in the castle is safe if the king or the duke are outside of the throne room. I'm going to interpret that as I'm not in the throne room. Nobody in the castle is safe if, so if is the part that goes after if is going to be the antecedent. If the king or the duke are outside of the throne room. So that means if the king is not in the throne room or if the duke is not in the throne room. So it's not the case that the king is in the throne room. Or it's not the case that the duke is in the throne room. Oh. Throne room contains the duke. So that's that half of it done. And if that's the case, then nobody in the castle is safe. So I could say for all X, if they're in the castle, then they're not safe. Or alternatively, I could say there does not exist any X who is in the castle and is safe. And it's it can be a good exercise to try capturing things in different ways with the quantifiers and learn how they relate to each other.